Hello and welcome to World News, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Salia Strzemska. And we start with the UK Foreign Office, which has confirmed that today's Ukraine peace talks with US and European representatives have been postponed after US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he could not attend. Let's go to our correspondent Oskar Terji, who is in Kiev. Hello, Oz, good to see you.
Well, all eyes were supposed to be on London today, where US officials were supposed to meet with European officials and Ukrainian officials to discuss US proposals for a ceasefire in Ukraine. That meeting has since been downgraded, with neither Marco Rubio nor the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff expected to attend those talks, and now the European top diplomats are not expected to attend either. There will be talks on the sidelines of these discussions between Ukrainian officials and the UK's top diplomat David Lammy. However, the main discussions will be taking place between lower level officials to discuss the US proposals for ending the war in Ukraine. Now, the US media, Wall Street Journal, Axios, among others, reporting that the US proposal to end the war in Ukraine would accept Russian control over Crimea and a de jure control over Crimea, and would accept de facto Russian control over those 4 other Ukrainian regions they have attempted to illegally annex. We've already had a response from President Zelensky saying this would go against the Ukrainian constitution and they would never accept such Russian control over Crimea, saying this is our territory, the territory of the people of Ukraine. This will not happen. The EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas also responded that the European Union would not accept Russian control of Crimea. They would see that as legitimizing an act of aggression, an act of war, something that would go against what the EU believes in. So it seems unlikely the Americans are going to be able to pressure the Europeans or the Ukrainians into accepting this deal that would see Russian control of Crimea legitimized. Now, elsewhere in Ukraine, in Dnipropetrovsk, in the town of Marhanets, 9 people have been killed and at least 30 others injured when a Russian drone targeted a bus in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. So while these talks are ongoing, Russia is continuing to strike Ukrainian civilians and kill Ukrainian civilians on the territory of Ukraine. It's Oskar Terji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Poland chief diplomat Radosław Sikorski has delivered his foreign policy address to the Polish parliament. In his speech, Sikorski outlined the goals of Warsaw's foreign policy for 2025. President Andrzej Duda and Prime Minister Donald Tusk were both in attendance. Our reporter Kazimierz Łysiak was on the ground. Kazimierz, so Sikorski's address showed how Poland plans to respond to the challenges resulting from growing global instability. What were some of the key points that he made? Can you give us a gist?
Good morning, Sally. Exactly. Many challenges that Poland is facing right now, and many of these were addressed in the speech by Minister Sikorski. He outlined 4 main points of interest, similar to the speech he made last year. There were also 4 key points. So let's go through these right now. First and foremost, more defense spending and security, as well as the EU taking more responsibility for its own security. That was the main point made today by the Foreign Minister of Poland. That is, of course, in connection with the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, with the United States being more blunt in its approach towards Ukraine, Kyiv and Europe. So that was the main point made by the Polish foreign minister. Now, the second point was keeping unity and also strengthening transatlantic ties, especially with the United States. Now, we have this new reality of US President Donald Trump being more blunt towards the continent, but it is still the biggest guarantee of safety for Europe, and that was also emphasized by the foreign minister here, who said that we need to take more responsibility for our own safety, but we also need to continue to work together with the United States. Now, third, the Polish foreign minister said that there needs to be a defense of the global order based on the UN Charter. He mentioned as well that the United Nations should be reformed to be able to promote peace more. And also, last but not least, he said that there should be an engagement in dialogue with the global south, meaning, of course, countries such as continents such as Africa or South America. Now, interestingly, there were also 4 trends that the foreign minister said were undesirable for Poland. That is something that wasn't here last year in his speech. And these were one of the main concerns, for example, was that we have now zones of influence instead of groups of alliances, instead of zones of alliances. He said that there are also that the world is turning away from such approaches as the strengthening of sovereignty of countries across the world. He said that we are turning away from sovereignty of nations, instead that the world is turning to strength of global powers, that it is not desirable for Poland's foreign policies. He also said that international organizations are being weakened, such as the United Nations, and that there is growing disinformation across the world. We have, of course, Russian disinformation spreading across Europe. So these were some of the key takeaways from the Polish foreign minister. He focused a lot on Ukraine as well, saying that we need to keep supporting Kyiv, that Kyiv is not losing, that it still continues to defend itself, and that Poland's interests lie very much in Ukraine being able to defend itself. A lot to unpack from this speech. There will also be a speech by the Polish president, who is now speaking to the press. So be on the lookout for our reports throughout the day.
Kazimierz Ryczak reporting from the Polish Parliament. Thank you, Kazimierz, for this comprehensive overview. In Warsaw today, Poland and Norway reaffirmed their partnership, with the officials signing a fresh round of EEA and Norway grants. This crucial funding supports a wide range of sectors, from green innovation and education to civil society development. Norway's Crown Prince paid a visit to Warsaw for the talks, and our reporter Aisha Baci was there and joins us live with the highlights. Hi Aisha, good to see you. So could you please give us an overview as to what happened?
Hello, Sally. So this visit definitely reflects Norway's strong bilateral relations with Poland, and Poland is actually one of the biggest beneficiaries of this EEA and Norway grants at 924.9 million euros for the period of 2021-2028. Now, these these grants are promoting several things: social cohesion, civil society empowerment, as well as NGOs, and green transition. At the moment, Norway is the biggest energy provider for Poland. And although these grants are not directly funding any defense cooperation, they are definitely addressing the challenges posed by the Russian aggression on Ukraine. And upon that, let's hear what the Prince had to say during his speech at the signing ceremony.
Russian aggression in Ukraine is putting pressure on Europe. Hostile actors are attempting to weaken our democracies and challenge our fundamental values. In response, we must redouble our common efforts to strengthen European resilience and safeguard democratic principles. We have designated funds to strengthen civil society in Poland and to mitigate the impacts of the war in Ukraine.
And speaking of defense cooperation, later today, the Crown Prince, as well as the Foreign Minister of Norway, will be attending a seminar to promote defense cooperation and defense cooperation throughout the industries of Poland and Norway. This seminar will also be attended by Defense Minister Radosław Sikorski. And after that, the Crown Prince and the Minister of Foreign Affairs will be meeting with Polish President Andrzej Duda. So this visit definitely once again highlights these deep ties between Norway and Poland, both economically, socially, and in terms of defense. So it comes at a very strategic moment, and we will be following the rest of the day of how the visit goes. Back to you, Sally.
Aisha Baci reporting from Warsaw. Thank you, much appreciated. And now the latest from the Vatican. The late Pontiff's body has arrived at St. Peter's Basilica, where the members of the public are now allowed to enter to say a final goodbye to the Pope. Our correspondent Alex Kadia is in Rome. Hi, Alex. Good to see you again. So the funeral is on Saturday. What is going to happen by then?
Well, in the meantime, you are going to see hundreds of thousands of people flocking to this city to pay their respects to the late Pontiff. The public was allowed to enter St. Peter's Basilica in the last hour and will be able to go through for the next 12 hours. Tens of thousands of people paying their respects to Pope Francis after he passed. You can see the crowds there on your screen building up in front of the Basilica. People will be queuing for hours to be able to access the late Pontiff, to pay their respects. You've seen people in floods of tears across the city on their way to pay their respects to Pope Francis, who leaves a very important and very meaningful legacy, not just for people here in Rome, but for people further afield. He was very much the Pope for Catholics not in Europe. He was the first Pope from the Americas, of course, and he was very much inclined to make sure that the Global South, as it's known, was included in the Church's thinking, reaching out to communities in Africa and South America, of course, making a real impact on countries where the number of Catholics in Africa and South America are growing, of course. These are the kinds of crowds you can expect to see in Rome over the next few days, paying their respects. Really an enormous amount of emotion in this city. You can feel it as you walk around. You can see it on the faces of people paying their respects to the late Pope, who clearly had a profound impact on their faith and on the rest of the world as well.
Alex Kadia, thank you for keeping us posted. In breaking news, Apple and Meta have been slapped with fines from the European Commission after breaching some of the blog's digital market rules. We're joined live by our EU correspondent Andrzej from Brussels. Hi, Angela. So what are these breaches and sort of how big are the penalties?
Yes, so we just heard this news roughly half an hour ago that social media behemoths Apple as well as Meta have been slapped with €100 fines from the Commission. Now, according to an official press release, Apple has been hit with that €500 million penalty, for breaching anti-steering obligations as part of the Digital Marketing Act. Now, Digital Markets Act, this was set up roughly in 2022. The aim is to give consumers the best choice when it comes to their products, as well as setting up an anti-monopolising marketplace so that no company has the right over others to sell their wares. We also heard from the Commission that Meta, which is responsible for such platforms such as Facebook as well as Instagram, has been slapped with the €200 million fine for breaching that DMA obligation regarding consumers as well as their data protection. So what happens next? Both companies have to pay the penalty within 60 days or else they will incur other fines. This represents roughly 10% of those companies' turnover, but many digital reporters here have been champing at the bit, waiting for the Commission to outline their findings. After months of investigations, we are also waiting for the outcome of a Commission investigation into TikTok after that company allegedly was exploited during those Romanian elections, presidential elections later last year. But this is a developing news story. We are waiting for commentary as well from Meta as well as Apple, and when that rolls in, we'll give it to you. But that's all from Brussels. I'll send it to you in Warsaw.
Yeah, these are indeed hefty amounts. Andrzej is reporting from Brussels. Thank you. And with this, we're going to wrap up our news update. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more.